On this episode of Cosmic Cantina, could we be living in our own simulated reality? We talk about the possibility of a soul existing in the quantum field. Is there proof that there is life after death? Then, Josh takes us on a ride beyond the veil as he discusses interactions with living entities from the spirit world. I'm your host, Melissa Tittle, and every week I go to my favorite bar, Cosmic Cantina, and kick back with my co-hosts, Josh Golembeski and Matt O'Connor. We talk about aliens, Bigfoot, ghosts, ancient cultures, and anything from the unseen world that needs a little illumination. Welcome to Cosmic Cantina. I'm your host, Melissa Tittle, and tonight we are drinking 19 Crimes Cab Sav, made by convicts.
Red? Yeah, made by real convicts. No, it's kind of, I think it's like kind of dedicated to poor criminals. They call it the punishment by transportation. There's a whole story on the back. If you get it, check it out, read it. It's pretty interesting.
Little history lesson on how Australia was formed. And This is their first wine.
A lot of bad people. But
and it's good.
Made
it's
a good country.
It's It's really good wine, though.
Yep.
Convicts make good wine.
It's good stuff.
Well, on to a different reality. I was reading again. And I'm actually researching a lot for a new season of Ancient Civilizations, which is coming out in Gaia in 2021. I'm not pitching.
Little plug there.
Just a little plug. And I come across a lot of stuff. I fall into a lot of rabbit holes. And this specifically is a topic that I think is very interesting because everybody wants to talk about the simulated universe and possibly quantum mechanics. And
I do.
I know, right? It's cool. And one of the articles I came across was researchers claim that humans have souls which can live on after death. Now, this is an esoteric thing. Like, usually if you're in this space that you would believe that, right? You don't think that you would just die and that's it. Like, that's a very narrow view. But
yes,
this is a scientific study. So this guy he's a physicist. His name is Sir Roger Penrose, and he believes that it's just a packet of information stored at quantum or subatomic level, meaning like your soul is this information stored at a quantum or subatomic level. And he claims to have found evidence that this information, which is stored in your microtubules within your human cells, leaves the body after a person dies, but can return back to the same cells if the host comes back to life. And also, he argues... you
can get spooky with that. That's interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So it goes into the quantum field, and it can return once it knows that certain body has come back on. This explains to him a lot of studies he's done on near-death experiences. He believes that the quantum information amounts to a soul leaving the body. It's possible, he says, that this quantum information can exist outside the body, perhaps indefinitely as a soul. So once you die, it goes back into the quantum field, and it waits for itself to get attracted to its same energy level.
So reincarnation.
So
you're not just talking about when someone dies and floats above the body and comes back. Mm-hmm. You're talking about coming back to a different whole person.
Come back to a whole different person. But whatever that setup is, whatever that structure. So, there's this idea that you pick your parents, right? That's a whole theory. That's not wrong or right. But he's suggesting that whatever the energy that is created by those two people matches your energy frequency, and then you would attract yourself to those cells. So you would be reborn again, which is kind of cool to think about. So it's the same thing like if you're just floating around in the quantum field. I'm not sure if this is his research, but if you take it a little bit further, that your energy levels would attract to other things that would attract to you anyway, right?
Sure.
So maybe does this explain ghosts, paranormal?
Yes.
Right? Do people really have to go through some kind of...
Yes.
Yeah, do people really have to go through some trauma and they don't want to leave their house? Or is it because they're still attracted to some other kind of energy?
So is he saying this is a quantifiable, tangible, measurable energy level? Mm-hmm. That is... Okay.
That's stored in your actual cells.
Yeah.
I'm all in.
But has anybody ever explained... Okay, we all know how babies are born. But has anybody ever explained how does the soul get in there? I mean, there's a belief in Christianity of kind of a soul entrapment type of thing.
Yeah.
But nobody really can explain that. It's sort of a miracle. How does one get in dividing cells?
I think there's different theories on it depending on like what culture you're kind of in.
So I guess that's the greatest question of all, right? How does consciousness get transported into your body?
Right.
If you believe that the pineal gland, I said it right, is is the seat of consciousness, it must be going there. I mean, that's all we can theorize at this point.
Right. I mean, but it's not even formed then, right?
Oh, I don't know.
So, like,
no, it's the pineal gland is initially fused with the pituitary gland, and they're bathed in like a cerebral spinal fluid when you're like a first little zygote type creature. And then as you develop, the pineal gland moves forward through the brain and ends up where it's supposed to be in the center front part of your frontal lobe there, but it's light sensitive too, and it has all these optical sensors in there, so it really is like an eye. It has all the things, like a lot of the things that our eyes have.
Our third eye.
Yeah, so that's why people call it third eye, but it is like light sensitive. So I think when you realize that there's this thing inside your brain that can detect light, but yet there's no light physically getting inside your freaking head.
Yeah.
You're picking up energy from somewhere, right? So I think it is possible that there's a way for your brain to recognize, light is energy, I guess. So it kind of makes sense. So when people, when gurus say they can push their tongue to the back of their throat and drink that, what do they call it? The nectar?
No, I've never heard this before. You're blowing my mind in the moment.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, this is a whole thing, yeah. The ambrosia is the idea that you can push your tongue back there and you get this, like, acidic oil, basically. It's that they call ambrosia.
And that's from it's your spinal fluid, right?
Yeah, sort of, yeah. And it causes, like, a hallucinogenic out-of-body experience.
What? It does? I never even heard of this. I feel like I
so
should
it's
be
like a
all
whole
over
thing,
this.
Yeah.
Wow.
That whole concept where everything's inside your body and you don't have to look outside of it is maybe true.
Yeah.
You don't even need to find plants to eat.
As above, so below.
No, as I get older, I believe
perfect.
that more and more.
Perfect, because I found an amazing article that backs that up.
All right, let's hear it.
So this is in Scientific American, which is probably a little bit more legit than where I found the other article. This is just recently. So the article says, coming to grips with the implications of quantum mechanics. The question is no longer whether quantum theory is correct, but what it means. So they're basically saying...
I love that.
And you can read the whole article, but we don't have time for that here. I'm just going to give you the kind of little summary.
Yeah.
And they reported in 2007 and 2010, and a culminating amount of research now in 2019, 2020, a remarkable test reported in May that showed that the key predictions of quantum mechanics are indeed correct. Taken together, these experiments indicate that everyday world we perceive does not exist until it is observed by yourself. Ooh. Which means that what you're saying is that third eye is literally perceiving things the way that it wants to. And right? That's what you were saying? Mm-hmm. Because it is like triggered by light and stuff like that.
Yep.
So every time that you look at something, you're perceiving it the way that you want to, and you literally create the world that you live in based on how you are seeing things, how you've decided that you're going to see things. So they're backing that up with science that, like, yes, matter exists, but it only exists because you have decided what it is and what it means to you. We might be living in a simulated reality. And if that's true, if everything that we're suggesting that we see is based on how we internally interpret the whole world of our simulation that we've decided, that we projected out, what does that mean for how we interact with the quantum field? And that quantum field, let's just say that exists with all the other energy balls that have died, according to Sir Roger, and maybe are not in matter form. How do we interact with those beings? Because if all of this is true, then there's things that haven't formed into matter and they are just energy.
Yeah, absolutely. That whole conversation opens up a lot of doorways to that would make sense for ghosts, for higher beings, for angels, for all these different entities that seem bizarre to us, but immaterialize and lower their vibration, which we keep hearing, to be here, whatever that means. I don't really know what that means when I say it to people. So, and that it all plays into it.
I just think it opens up just so, we're not really debating, like, does this exist anymore? They're really saying, like, look, there's nothing, we need to stop debating it. Now we need to, like, figure out how it works. Right? So there's a lot of like new age people that are saying if you have control of your emotions, which I do agree with, if you have control of your emotions, then you control the universe you live in. So if you think about it, like a lot of people are playing a game, if this is true, simulated universe game.
Yeah.
And they're acting as if everything is happening to them, but they're literally creating it all. So if you can actually have control of your own reality, then you would be able to play the game that you want.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. One of the things it makes life easier sometimes when I think about it as a game, that I'm playing a game, and it's actually just easier to navigate. It doesn't mean you don't have real connections with people or real emotions or honest moments. It's not that. But sometimes I treat work and life like a game, and it makes it easier. Because I do actually believe all this. Before this article, before it was proven, it seemed right, It seemed it fit better than other things I've heard before. So I'm glad there's scientific proof to prove this now, because that's something I've always been telling people. And everyone's like, what do you mean quantum realm? You can't explain that, Josh. Shut up. I was like, check out this podcast with this awesome article. Melissa broke it down. Shit's real, bro.
Yeah. It's a thing.
It's a thing. Yeah, it's there.
Yeah, I'm woke, bro.
You can eat your tots.
Then we chest bump and then have Bud Light. It's great.
But Josh, you brought up some cool things that kind of correlate to this, like maybe not the NPCs, if you will, in your simulated reality, but there are things that are interacting with you, but like on a non-physical matter level, but in some other form.
Yes, I did some deep research on mediumship, and I've never done that before. I thought it was all BS, but physical mediumship is fascinating and there's compelling evidence. The reason why this connects so well is because this book I read called Surviving Death by Leslie Kean goes into it's all about evidence of life after death, which is fascinating. This book actually reduced my fear of death. It's amazing. And in the book, there's all these examples that I think tie into what we're talking about. Like, all of it's possible with this new setting, with the quantum realm being real. It's all possible. We just energy transfers somewhere else, and it goes somewhere else, and it vibrates at a higher rate and goes somewhere. And this book has proof of that if your mind is open. And just to break it down quick, her name's Leslie Kean. The reason why she's so important and why I trust her experience in this book, and she goes into a lot of research, but the personal experience in this book she has is shocking and incredible. She is responsible for one of the authors of the 2017 December article in the New York Times that brought the government program called ATIP to light, that basically broke soft disclosure.
Oh, wow.
So she's a big name in the space. She's written books on UFOs. She's a sober journalist tackling things with science and investigation. She's not trying to, she's not saying anything. But
she's not on a side, is what you're saying.
Exactly. But what she broke down in this book, some of this book, I'm not going to go into everything. It goes into not just the typical stuff that Raymond Moody died into about near-death experiences with bedside events and people witnessing people dying for a second and coming back and that type of evidence. This is more the more interesting stuff, I think. It goes into reincarnation. It goes into out-of-body experiences and also mediumship and interaction with ghosts that seem to be interacting with you, not just a ghost walking by that seems like more of a memory or like you're watching a movie from the past, which is a different type of experience. It was also proof of a quantum realm, actually. It all connects. It's really It's better than Jinn for connecting everything, Matt O'Connor.
So there.
There, take it. All right, so here we go. So in this book, she meets a medium who wrote a memoir about his life. Now, there's a lot of charlatans out there. This guy is incredible. His name is Stuart Alexander. He was a physical British medium.
Everybody's so British and elegant.
He's so elegant, but into weird stuff. I love this guy. So this is what a physical medium is for those who are unsure about mediumship, because there's different types, actually. We're just going to talk about physical. According to Wikipedia, a physical mediumship is defined as a manipulation of energies and energy systems by spirits. This type of mediumship is claimed to involve perceptual manifestations, which is what I'm going to get to, such as loud raps and noises, voices, materialized objects, apports. Apports is a term for objects moving around spontaneously. Materialized spirit bodies or body parts such as hands, which we'll get to, which is crazy, legs, and feet. The medium is used as a source of power for such spirit manifestations. By some accounts, this was achieved by using the energy or the ectoplasm, which I'll get to later, released by this medium. Okay, so that's a basic overview of what a physical medium is.
So, ectoplasm.
Ectoplasm. I'll explain ectoplasm in a second. It's actually the key to everything. It's the key to the whole experience. All right, so this guy Stuart slowly built up this ability over years. This was not an overnight thing. He was influenced at a young age by other mediums back in the day who had real power. He slowly did this. He learned how to be a medium, and it took about months and years before he even really had his first real experience, because it's not it's really hard to develop. You have to set the right conditions. You have to have the right intent. It's the whole thing. I don't really know how you do it, but this is what happened. After a while, finally, one time in this room, which I'll set up to in a second, his team started to form. He gained a spirit team that guides him. The first person
like
to come
physical